want to start with something from the source material that really stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Usually when we look at this stuff, military planning, the whole story is about confidence.
Yeah.
You visualize the win.
Yeah, right. Picture the success, the breach, the capture.
Exactly. But this document we're tearing into today, this reconstruction of the planning for Operation Caracas, it suggests that for the people actually in that room, confidence is a liability.
Yeah, it completely flips that on its head, doesn't it?
It says survival doesn't come from visualizing success. It comes from, like, a rigorous, almost obsessive imagination of failure.
It's a total inversion of positive thinking. But when you look at the specifics of Caracas, you get it. This isn't pessimism.
No.
It's not about being negative just to be negative. It's a methodology. The source makes a really compelling case that if you can't say exactly, step by step, how your plan creates a catastrophe, then you don't actually understand your plan.
And that's really the mission for this deep dive. We're not even covering the raid itself today. No breaching charges, no choppers on the roof. We are living entirely in what the source calls the foundation of doubt. We're in that planning room before the green light. And the main question everyone is asking is, where did this break?
And not if it breaks.
No, not if. They treat failure as like a given, an inevitability that has to be engineered out layer by painful layer.
That distinction, where versus if, that's everything. That's the difference between a plan that looks good in a briefing and one that survives first contact with reality.
So where do they start?
Well, in the Caracas documents, they call the environment a semi-chaotic system.
That sounds like something from a physics textbook.
It's a term for thermodynamics, usually, not tactical raids. And what it implies is that the variables are interacting in ways you just can't fully predict. You're not just fighting an enemy, you're fighting the entropy of an entire city.
Okay, so let's start with the first layer of that entropy, the intelligence gap. The source is pretty brutal about the state of the intel. You know, we have this idea that modern commanders have a God's eye view.
Drones, signals intelligence, real-time tracking.
Right. But for Caracas, the source describes the information streams as fragmented and, I thought this was interesting, deliberately noisy.
Deliberately noisy is the key. In this specific theater, the opposition knew they were being watched.
So they weren't just hiding.
No, they were actively fighting back with information, flooding the zone with false positives, outdated reports, conflicting signals. The planners knew that the intelligence gaps weren't just gaps, they were weaponized.
Which leads to this specific fear in the document, and I think it's the most dangerous trap of all. It's not the fear of being totally wrong.
No, if the intel says the target is in a warehouse and you get there and it's a swimming pool, you just scrub.
You go home. The mission's a bust.
Right. The nightmare scenario they obsessed over was the danger of being just wrong enough.
That is the zone where catastrophes happen, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just wrong enough means your core assumption is right. The target is in the building. But the texture, the details of that reality are wrong.
Like what?
Maybe you have the right address, but the floor plan is wrong because of unrecorded renovations. Or you're right about who's there, but you're wrong about who's in the room next door.
And it's that illusion of certainty. The picture looks, say, 90% solid, so you commit.
But that missing 10% isn't just unknown. It's active. It's where the friction is hiding. The source says it's like committing to a kinetic action based on a blueprint that doesn't exist anymore.
So you breach a door expecting a hallway.
And you find a brick wall. Or worse, a family having dinner. And in a high-speed raid, that split second of confusion where the map in your head clashes with the room in front of you.
That's where people get killed.
That's where hesitation gets you killed. Or the opposite, where you react too fast to make a mistake with massive strategic consequences.
Which brings us to what they call the human variable. The source says, and I'm quoting here, operations don't fail because of maps, they fail because of people.
And that's not just about the operators.
No, it's about the entire city. Caracas isn't a sterile grid on a map, it's a living, breathing thing.
Maps are static, they don't panic, they don't get tired or have divided loyalties. The planners identified these specific multipliers in Caracas that made the human terrain just incredibly complex.
Like what kind of multipliers?
Well, you had security personnel with, let's call them ambiguous allegiances. Local police who might be on a payroll you don't even know about. You had civilians moving through zones that were supposed to be clear.
Unpredictably.
Completely unpredictably. And that's where the source introduces this concept of the cascade.
Yeah, this was a huge insight for me. It's not just that a civilian sees you, it's about what happens next.
It's the chain reaction. A single mundane human decision can trigger it. A local official reroutes traffic for no apparent reason. A guard decides to leave his post to get a coffee.
And you'd think a guard leaving his post is a lucky break, right? A gap in the defense.
It seems like it. But think about the mechanics of that cascade. So the guard leaves his post. 2 streets over, he bumps into a delivery driver he knows. They chat. The driver mentions seeing something odd.
Uh-oh.
The guard makes a phone call, not to his boss, but to a cousin who's in a local militia. Suddenly, the noise level in that neighborhood just spikes. The team hasn't even left their vehicles, but the environment has already fundamentally shifted against them.
And that connects directly to how the source redefines surprise. I think we all have the Hollywood version in our heads.
Shock and awe kicking in the door.
Exactly. But the Caracas planners treated surprise much more coldly. It's not an emotion. It's a math problem.
It's all about timing advantage. The definition they used is the delta, the time gap between the moment of detection and the moment of effective reaction. That's it. It's just a countdown clock.
But the really unnerving part of their analysis is this idea of silent erosion.
Yeah. That's the nightmare.
It was honestly the part of the document that felt the most claustrophobic to me. The idea that you can lose your element of surprise and not even know it. No alarms go off.
But the math has already changed. Silent erosion means your timing advantage is just evaporating, invisibly. Say the insertion vehicle is delayed by 3 minutes because of an unmarked road closure. That's friction.
Okay.
Then the team has to deal with a gate they thought would be unlocked. More friction. No one's shooting, the enemy isn't alerted, but that 10-minute buffer you built into the plan?
It's gone.
It's gone. You're now operating on borrowed time, but you don't know the clock has sped up.
So when you finally make contact, you're hitting the enemy, not when they're vulnerable, but at the exact moment they're most ready.
And that's the semi-chaotic system compounding on itself. A minor delay here forces an improvisation there, and improvisation under pressure. That is the ultimate test of discipline.
Because you're making split-second decisions based on assumptions that might be just wrong enough.
Which is how you get unplanned escalation.
The source really hammers this point. The risk that the entire nature of the operation changes midstream. You go in with rules of engagement for a surgical raid. Very restrictive, very precise.
But if that silent erosion has happened, if the timing advantage is lost, suddenly you aren't conducting a raid anymore. You're in a sustained firefight.
And in a city like Caracas, that's amplified. Source has a great line. Politics doesn't wait for clean exits.
Exactly. The team gets pinned down, local forces respond, crowds start to gather. Now you aren't fighting a known target, you're managing a public order crisis with live ammo.
The tactical problem has just morphed into a political disaster.
And the operators are still on the ground, just trying to figure out how to get home.
Which brings us to the phase of the operation that the source claims is the most lethal, the extraction. It says, and I mean, this is as blunt as it gets, extraction is where most operations die.
Yeah. Why? Why is getting out so much harder than getting in?
It's the physics of it and the psychology. On the way in, you hold the initiative. You choose the time, the place, the method. You are the actor. And the city is just the stage.
The city is the audience, yeah. But the second that objective is hit mission success or failure, doesn't matter, the dynamic flips. You've lost the initiative. The city is now awake. And the enemy knows exactly where you are.
So you go from being the hunter to being the hunted.
Instantly. And all the variables for getting out are exponentially higher. Routes that were clear 30 minutes ago are now clogged. Airspace that was open is now contested because the local government has scrambled jets.
Time and space are compressing on you.
Totally. The source mentions that every minute the team stays on the ground past their exit window, the probability of failure doesn't just rise, it spikes. The antibodies of the city are converging on the wound.
So the planners had to map out what? Secondary, tertiary extraction route.
They had to assume the primary route would be gone the second the first shot was fired. They had to ask, if the helo can't land here, where do we walk? If we can't walk, where do we hide?
And while they're trying to hide or move, this whole other modern layer of failure kicks in. The source calls it narrative collapse.
Or information leakage.
This part is fascinating. It separates operational failure from informational failure. You can win the gunfight, get the target, get out clean, and still lose the war because of cell phone video.
This is the battlefield of perception. It used to be that the after-action report was the definitive history, right? For years, anyway. Now, the history is being written on social media in real time before the team is even back at base.
And the source points to the danger of partial footage.
The out-of-context clip, yeah. A video shows an operator pushing a civilian.
But it doesn't show the weapon the civilian was reaching for.
Exactly. And that information leakage creates political pressure that travels faster than any helicopter. By the time the team is being debriefed, the diplomatic fallout might already be unstoppable. Truth becomes secondary to perception.
And that leads to what the documents call the unspoken fear, the scenario that commanders hate to even say out loud.
Tactical success, strategic failure.
The idea that you execute the raid perfectly, you check every single box, but the long-term impact actually works against your own interests.
It's the ultimate special operations irony. The planners have to ask, okay, does capturing this one person destabilize the region in a way we can't manage? Does the imagery from this raid alienate an ally we desperately need?
The fear is that it's a Pyrrhic victory. You get the man, but you lose the population.
Or you stop one plot, but you accidentally trigger a much broader conflict.
It's a heavy burden for a planning cell. You're asking tacticians to weigh geopolitical consequences. So, if the risks were this high, if the intel was this noisy and the extraction was a nightmare, why do it? Why did Operation Caracas get the green light?
And that is the final calculation, isn't it? The source concludes that all of this rigorous imagination of failure, it serves one purpose.
Which is?
To accurately weigh the cost of action against the cost of inaction.
A cost of inaction. That's the part we always forget.
We assume doing nothing is the safe option, the baseline. But in the context of Caracas, the assessment was that the status quo was, well, it was deteriorating fast. The threat posed by the target remaining active was deemed greater than all the risks of the operation combined.
So they didn't go because they were sure they'd succeed.
They went because they were sure the alternative was worse.
So all that scrutiny, all that pessimism, it wasn't about finding an excuse to cancel the mission.
No, it was about making sure that when they stepped into that chaos, they did it with their eyes wide open. They knew exactly where the ice was thin.
And they knew that once they started, there was no pause button.
The source ends on that note. The power of momentum. Once the operation begins, you're riding an avalanche. You can try to steer, try to keep your head above the snow, but gravity has taken over.
It really changes how you should look at the news of these things. We see a headline, judge the outcome. But the reality is that outcome was probably determined weeks before, in some windowless room, by people trying to guess how a traffic jam could cause a diplomatic crisis.
The fog of war isn't just on the battlefield, it's in the planning room too. And the only way to navigate it is to embrace the doubt.
I want to leave you with a thought that kept nagging me through this whole source. We talked about narrative collapse, right? The speed of information. In a world where every bystander has a camera, where every video clip goes global in seconds, can a covert operation ever truly stay a tactical event? Or does the information age automatically make every single soldier a strategic chess piece?
That's a heavy question.
I mean, if one wrong move by one private can be broadcast to the world and change national policy, is there such a thing as just a soldier anymore?
That might be the defining question for the next generation of warfare. The tactical and the strategic have essentially merged.
And that is a terrifying place to be. This deep dive was all about the what-ifs, the planning. But next time we're going to see what actually happened when the rubber met the road.
Right. We're going to strip away the speculation and cover the event itself.
The raid without the noise.
That's coming up.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.